The mullet is out, the beard is in, and not only is Mike Gundy growing a wisdom-inducing, majestic beard, but he's also growing as a coach. He personally wanted a 3-3-5 defense. The question is, why did he want it so bad, and what does it even mean for us in 2023?
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, as well as visually on YouTube. And you can find me personally at All Day O State on Twitter. So the defensive side of the ball last year, ironically enough, was kind of the highlight, right? There were several times during the season that the first half we got our head absolutely kicked in. But then Coach Derek Mason made some adjustments and made the second half of games not only bearable, but a lot of times winnable. We just didn't capitalize. Now, we've talked quite a bit about how this year you can bet money, or at least I'm betting money, that we will hammer the over, that we will rush for over 4.5 yards a carry, that we will likely have another 1,000-yard receiver. So that's all the offensive side of the thing. And that's not even including the fact that we don't exactly know what we're doing at quarterback quite yet. I still think all of those are going to happen regardless of who's slinging the pigskin. I really, really firmly do. But this 3-3-5 defense, right? Let's just kind of take a look at what it is, kind of where it came from and what it means for us. So the 3-3-5, also you've probably heard it called a 3-3 stack. It's a base 4-2, right? Which is the base nickel package. And the nickel package was proving to be very, very much a legitimate weapon when going up against 10 personnel. 10 personnel is one running back, 0 tight ends, right? So I do expect us this season to use a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of 22 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, kind of a diamond formation type thing. But the 10 personnel, right, 1 running back, 0 tight ends, that means you got 4 eligible wide receivers, including the tailback, which now makes 5. That's very difficult to stop, whether it's a 4-3 front or a 3-4 front. It doesn't really matter. But the irony of the original nickel base 4-2 that kind of helped evolve the 3-3-5 has been instrumental. And when you think of that, guys, as Cowboy fans, you can think back to Paris Cox. Paris Cox played that nickel spot for the San Francisco 49ers for quite some time. He was very, very good at it. Currently, and even the last couple of years, Trey Flowers has been doing the same thing with the Bengals. But with that nickel 4-2 type of packaging, that extra guy, he's a DB. So now you have an extra defensive back roaming around, which obviously is going to cause big matchup problems when you have tight ends, fullbacks, things of that nature coming through on crossing routes. And if you're responsible for the flat, good luck covering somebody Brandon Pettigrew size, Leon Johnson III size, or dare I say this season, Josiah Johnson size. Those size dudes are very difficult for a traditional nickel guy to cover. It is what it is, right? You've heard the word tweener over and over in our lifetimes, and it used to be a negative connotation. There was a negative connotation attached to the word tweener for a long time. Well, what we have now learned to do is take that term of a tweener and turn him specifically into something. And with the 4-2 nickel type of package, you're missing out. So with the 3-3-5 or 3-3 stack, now you're adding somebody that's a little bit bulkier, a little bit bigger. It's still a tweener. It's a guy who's not quite big enough for defensive end, but he's not small enough or maybe quote unquote fast enough for a linebacker spot. So again, that tweener has been a weapon for a while. This all started in 1984 in New Mexico with Joe Lee Dunn. Jolie Dunn was the coach that kind of made this popular. You can go back and there is film from 84 up to 86, 87, where they were using this 3-3 style of defense. And it got more popular around 1986, 1987, when Memphis State beat USC, which, yes, Memphis State did, in fact, become Memphis inevitably. But on that staff, on both staffs, from New Mexico and Memphis State, was Rocky Long. So Rocky Long has kind of helped create this lineage now of coaches that can help you with your defense in significant ways, especially if you're undersized. That's what it was all designed for. At New Mexico, he had a lot of linebackers, but he didn't have very many defensive ends. He had a couple big dudes, right, that could kind of plug some holes, fill some gaps in the middle. But the rest of the team was primarily linebackers, but they were good, right? They were athletic, they were fast, they were lean, they were strong. So he used it to his advantage. And that's precisely what it is. But the benefit for us is it's not like we have an undersized issue at defensive line. Like, we're going to get to the keys that make this good, and we're going to get to the keys that we have that could potentially not only make it great, but win us a daggone title, take us to Arlington. So we'll discuss the players and the ways that we can do that. But just understanding the 3-3-5, I think, is very important because it gives you an idea of what we're looking for. It makes a whole lot more sense in the recruiting aspect of things, why we're going after certain guys for certain positions. This is why. The 3-3-5 does have some limitation. The 3-3 stack, right? You're shading off of your nose tackle. It can be odd front. I mean, you could throw a stand-up outside defensive end to make it somewhat of an even. But at the end of the day, what it does is it allows somebody to be that rover, right? The guy that goes all over the field. And you have seen massive, massive amounts of success. When you go to like a cover two has weaknesses. And then you have something in the evolutionary process called the Tampa 2, which was created early 2000s by Tony Dungy in Tampa Bay, which is why it's called Tampa 2. But Tampa 2 showed cover 2, but what it did was it had that middle linebacker run back to the middle third. So your safeties, right, they both had one equal side of the field, and now the middle linebacker is responsible for the middle of the field. Now, naturally, when you think about it, having a middle linebacker play run, right? Play run fit, but also drop back and run with wide receivers. It's a rare thing to even have happen. New Mexico had this fun little dude that nobody's ever heard of, like by the name of Bryan Urlacher. He was that guy for them. So again, we're going to get into our guys specifically in the direct correlation that we have. But the cover 2 has weaknesses. The Tampa 2 is designed to look like a cover 2, but now cover up that weakness in that middle third with the middle linebacker. But a middle linebacker is not typically going to be covering wide receivers. So you do put yourself in a position to get burned quite a bit because there's not a whole lot of Bryan Urlachers running around in the world. But Rocky Long came from that coaching tree from New Mexico. And, Syracuse, whenever they're going through their last hiring, Dino Babers knew he wanted somebody from that Rocky Long coaching tree. He knew that he didn't have the size up front to run a traditional 4-3. He didn't have the depth at linebacker to run a 3-4. But he had a lot of safeties. He knew he had something to work with. So, instead of getting somebody like Zach Arnett that's very hot in the game, he went off and got Tony White. And what Tony White did at Syracuse as a defensive coordinator under this tree, under this 3-3-5 tutelage, was take them from 112th in America total defense to number 18 in America. Iowa State's 3-3-5 is legendary. They switched in the middle of the 2017 season. They went from giving up almost 28 points a game to less than 19 points a game in 8 of their last 10 games. Some of it was confusion. I remember when they rolled this 3-3-5 thing out against Texas, after Texas prepared for them to be a 4-3 team, it really screwed them up a little bit. It gave them the opportunity to win games against Texas, which is not something Iowa State's been known to be doing for a long time now. This is kind of new, but what they have done is nothing short of amazing. They went from ranked in the 80s, 90s, Iowa State, to number 9 in America. So this defense has proven to be phenomenal, right? When it's used right, when it's done right, there's proof out there. just like there's proof out there that right now, if you haven't already, you need to go download FanDuel. Today, we're brought to you by FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook betting partner. And we told you 100 times, right? Not you, but the other people. We got to spread the word. Bet the over, bet the over, bet the over. And if NBA is your cup of tea, the playoffs are obviously here. You can get that no sweat first bet. Again, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. There's no better place to get in on the action right now. Whether it be betting the over, hammering the over for Oklahoma State University, or getting wrapped up in the NBA Finals, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get yourself signed up on the no sweat first bet. Again, that's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon today. Go to FanDuel and get yourself hooked up. It is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So again, this 3-3-5 is different. It's going to be pretty similar to what John Haycock's running over there at Iowa State. And as you've seen with Iowa State and John Haycock, the adaptability is not only imperative, but extremely impressive. Disregard whatever the defensive line is going to do, because the push from the defensive line in this is significantly different. You're not going to have a bunch of D linemen looking for sacks. Ain't going to happen. That is not the objective here. The objective in this 3-3-5 is to basically muddy up the water for the guys in the middle and kick everything outside to where you have that guy on the outside playing that stand-up style of middle line or outside linebacker, right? Your Von Miller type. And when you do have those guys, then you can run this system. And that's precisely what Gundy did. And you got to give hats off to Gundy. You just want everybody to grow and get better. Coaches, players, trainers, staff, doesn't matter. And we now know that this was a personal call by Gundy. Gundy has been studying defensive side of the ball for the last 2 years. He already knows the ins and outs of the offensive side of the ball. He already knows the ins and outs of virtually every single position on that field. So he dove into defense. He even admitted that he didn't necessarily pay a lot of attention to defense over the years. It was something that he knew he had to hire it out. But then he learned, and then he has seen physically, this is what we have, but this is what we're trying to do. Again, square peg in a round hole. We did it offensively a lot the last couple of years. And it appears that Gundy himself realized that defensively, we've got the safeties to do some crazy stuff. We've got the defensive line to run a traditional 4-3. That's not a problem. We did it last year. But this 3-3-5 that we are going to run is going to be phenomenal. Absolutely. And originally, Iowa State was using it, right? Because the Big 12 was a very air raid style of offense. And the 3-3-5 is typically designed to do what? Drop 8 men in coverage, which means you have a very, very light box. It means you're putting 4, maybe 5 guys in the box. You would think on a 4 to 5 man box running the ball is the ticket. And it is if you don't have the right guys. But see, you guys were getting to it. The buildup is coming. If you disregard anything on the defensive line, stat-wise, the responsibility now to fill gaps, to fill holes, there is some susceptibility over the top, of course. You're going to see teams run 4 verticals on us, of course, because that's a way to kind of break some of this coverage. But you're not going to see very many teams run it up the gut on us anymore, or at least not very successfully. Is the C gap going to be open quite a bit? Yes. That's why that linebacker, that Von Miller style guy is so important, because it does leave gaps purposely. And then when those gaps are created by the defense, you have to be strong enough, physical enough, athletic enough to close in on it, which is why Bryan Nardo right now is like a kid in a candy store, because we have everything you need to run the perfect 3-3-5. Now, as it pertains to us specifically right now, and even though it's designed to stop the pass, and you have that extra rover, bandit, Lobo, whatever you want to call him, you got to have that type of guy that can stop the run, right? Run fit. And by everything being more simplistic, utilizing that speed and athleticism to go with the perfect amount of size for that spot. You don't have to be a defensive end. You don't have to be a linebacker. But when you have a Colin Oliver, that can do both. We know with 100% certainty he can play the tar out of linebacker because he did it all throughout high school, and he got recruited by people like even OU and Texas and the guys. You know he has that already in the bank. Okay, cool. Now, in the Big 12, for 2 years, he plays defensive end, and he's one of the best defensive end in all of the country, freshman or not, sophomore or not, rotating plays with Trace Ford. At the end of the season, you saw that light bulb get bigger. You saw that light bulb get better. Colin Oliver has recently knocked off, I think he said 7 pounds. So he's faster, but he still loves to hit you like a Mack truck. So we have that tweener guy that is a dude, not just a guy. He's an absolute dude, the Von Miller style guy that can stand up, put his hand in the dirt if need be, get in 3 technique, cover, blitz, stunt, twist, get picks, set the edge while eating up blocks simultaneously. This is a Colin Oliver specialty move. Imagine Calvin Bundage, but a lot bigger and a lot stronger. Okay, so to be pretty good at the 3-3-5, you need that dude at safety that can analyze and understand multiple positions while still maintaining the advantage in every positional standpoint. Could you imagine somebody like a Malcolm Rodriguez in this 3-3-5 defense as a safety or a linebacker? Goodness me. But you got to have that linebacker or safety style tweener, because it's the same as being referred to as a utility player in baseball. It used to be kind of frowned on, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. Same concept with a tweener. So you got to have that guy to be pretty good in the 3-3-5. And that guy is who? Kendal flippin' Daniels. So again, not a guy. He's an absolute dude. You got to have these dudes. So to be, again, pretty good with the 3-3-5, you need that safety style dude to play multiple positions and understand a multitude of positions at the same time. And then you factor in the dude that we're talking about, Kendal Daniels, is playing safety at 6'4", 223 pounds, running a legit 4.44, 540. Okay, cool. And then to be good with the 3-3-5, you got to have that Von Miller style dude. Okay, cool. Colin Oliver fits that mold. You understand where I'm getting here? To be great in a 3-3-5, right? You go from pretty good to great by having a nasty, mean, strong, physical nose tackle that will gladly eat up 2 guys constantly. Because in the 3-3-5, that is exactly what the middle linebacker is reading, is the defensive tackle's butt. So whatever direction the defensive tackle takes the offense, so if it's a zone blocking scheme, which a lot of teams in the Big 12 are still a zone blocking scheme, you're going to push everything. You're going to fill the C gap. You're going to fill the B gap. You're going to fill the A gap. And you're going to flow with the line. You're going to make them help you make your decisions. But off of that has to be the middle linebacker. So whatever the split is, right, the fork, it's between the nose tackle and the middle linebacker. So if you have a really good nose tackle that can eat up multiple guys, then it allows that middle linebacker to see the field much more clearly and make multiple decisions. He doesn't have to sift through all the craziness. Justin Kirkland is that guy. But again, not just a guy, he's a flipping dude. Justin Kirkland is that dude. And people are sleeping on my main man, Colin Clay. He dealt with turf toe issue this spring, so we didn't see a lot of them. And yes, turf toe does hurt that bad, and it does take you out that long because you can't explode, right? It is what it is. So we've got 2 guys that we know for a fact can do that job. I think Aiden Kelly could legitimately end up being somebody to do that job. We have that dude. So again, to be pretty good, you got to have the Kendal Daniels dude. To be good, you got to have the Colin Oliver dude. To be great, you got to have the Justin Kirkland dude. To be a title contender, to be able to make it to Arlington with a 3-3-5, you need all 3 of those, right? You need your Kendal Daniels type. You need your Colin Oliver type. You need your Justin Kirkland type. But you also have to then have the middle linebacker that can cover the run fit. He can shed blocks. He can extend plays. He can make things go east to west, except for Stillwater. Stillwater, I think, is the only stadium that's built the opposite way. But you get the point, right? If a middle linebacker is playing the 3-3-5, and even if it's a Tampa 2 situation, and you've got your middle linebacker dropping back into coverage 80% of the time, that middle linebacker is not going to beat that tight end or receiver over the top. So you can get burnt. That middle third gets eaten up quite often, right? That's the biggest hole in all of this when it comes to a passing perspective. So your middle linebacker has to be able to run fit, shed blocks, extend plays, make things go east to west, and then also be able to drop back 30 yards in coverage and not get beat by a wide receiver. That's the question, is it not? That's the one that we don't know about. We know, I know Xavier Benson's going to be really good. I know Justin Wright's going to be really good. But Justin Wright's actually going to be phenomenal because the role that he's going to fit is absolutely perfect for him, right? He's not going to be this guy. Now, whether we move our linebackers around to make the offset of the offense make more sense, yeah, probably going to happen. We know we've got Kendal Daniels. We know we've got the Colin Oliver. We know we've got the Justin Kirkland. Last year for Baylor, you saw it with Siaka Ika. I'm not saying Justin Kirkland's as good as Siaka Ika, but Siaka Ika by himself made that defense 10 times better because he would eat up so much in the middle, it freed up everybody else. So we have those three, which means we can be great. And great in wins and losses is what? 11 wins? Yes. It can happen. It should happen. It could happen. But to be a title contender, do we have the middle linebacker that can do both? We love what we're seeing from Nick Martin. Absolutely. We love the maturity, leadership that we get from Xavier Benson. We love the chew your kneecaps off mentality that Justin Wright plays with. Filling the holes and the gaps is exactly what Justin Wright is built to do, designed to do, and he's going to look like RoboCop out there doing the daggone thing. But I'll be honest, I do have some questions on whether our middle linebacker is going to be able to do both jobs. I still think we're potentially a great team. I still think we potentially use all that to win 10, 11 games, 12 games, possibly, yes. But to get to Arlington, it will be interesting. If I had to bet my money right now, will Xavier Benson be able to do both? Man, I want to make it bet. I want to make that bet, but I don't know that I would. So, as we've kind of alluded to throughout the course of this week, this was going to be a defensive-heavy week. And I wanted to kind of give a little bit of that breakdown on the 3-3-5 because people do have questions on it. People are curious. And I see what Gundy sees. When you have Kendal Daniels and Lyrik Rawls and Trey Rucker, those guys by themselves probably make you want to get as much speed as possible on the field without it being a liability. The 4-2 nickel, it's a liability. It's a Paris Cox type. When you watch Paris Cox with the San Francisco 49ers, phenomenal coverage guy, but he was not sticking his nose in and tattooing guys. He wasn't blitzing. It wasn't his cup of taters. So he was a liability when matched up against bigger guys. Heck, I remember watching a game where Brandon Pettigrew was eating Paris Cox up. Paris Cox was having good coverage. He couldn't overpower Brandon Pettigrew. Well, do you think we're going to have that problem with Colin Oliver? No. Do you think we're going to have that problem with Kendal Daniels? No. Do you think we're going to have that problem with Justin Kirkland or Colin Clay? I'm telling you no. And not you, like I understand you know, but there are people out there that are unaware. So that's all we're trying to do here. I'm excited. Very excited. In 2000 and our phenomenal year, 2021, our defense allowed, what was it, 2.9 yards a carry? It's mind-blowing. This last season, we legitimately we let other teams average like 6.7 yards, 6.4 yards a carry on us. We gave up almost 7 yards a carry last season. And a decent amount of it was up the middle. We were trying to keep the Jim Knowles to Derek Mason transition super small. I get it. Okay. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And it didn't work. Sometimes the back half of the season, second half of games, Derek Mason made a lot of adjustments and kept us in it. But we have the pieces to make this 3-3-5 ridiculously good. Without even, you still talk about Raymond Gay. And I'm a firm believer in what I've seen thus far from everybody on the defensive side of the ball. I just don't see a way that this defense is not somewhat reminiscent of 2021. Now, are we going to go to 2.9 yards a carry? No, we're not. But are we going to give up almost 7 yards a carry? I don't think so. Not at all. Not even close. So if everybody does their job, this allows people like Kendal Daniels and Colin Oliver to shine. And they should. I want you to tell me in the comments, do you think that we do have the linebackers on the roster right now to be able to cover that middle third and be a run fit simultaneously? Because that's the ticket here. The piece he has with Kendal Daniels gives Bryan Nardo so many options. The piece he has with Justin Kirkland and Colin Clay, it gives Bryan Nardo so many options. But the linebacker, it's scary. I know how good Xavier Benson can be. Heck, we've had him on the show. Matter of fact, I'll tag his appearance on the show up here in the corner. But I do wonder if he's fast enough to do both responsibilities simultaneously. We like what we see again out of Nick Martin. Is Jeff Robertson fast enough to do both? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Is that middle linebacker or whatever linebacker is designed to cover that middle third, right? Because if there's a hard shift, it might be the Sam, which is the strong side linebacker, or the Will, which is the weak side linebacker. Obviously, Mike is middle. I don't know. It's interesting. It is. But we're going to go over some stats a little bit later on in the week, and we'll break down some of that. Wednesday, well, that's tomorrow, we'll have some recruiting dive-ins as well. So anyways, that's all we got for this one. I appreciate you all. And always, I love you. God bless. Thanks for stopping in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. All righty, y'all. Later.